Hi folks, and welcome to Truck King. Meet the latest member of the Truck King family. Yes, this is the 2024 Chevrolet Silverado 3500, and my dad just bought this truck. Now we're gonna detail the entire ownership experience over the coming years, but right now in this video, I'm gonna take this thing for a long drive, and we're gonna see how much diesel it burns. Let's start by looking at the spec of this truck. So it's a 3500 with the long bed LTZ or LTZ and the Duramax diesel. This is a 6.6 liter V8 diesel. It makes 470 horsepower and 975 pound-feet of torque sent through a 10-speed automatic. And yes, that is more power for this generation of truck. Now, like I mentioned, this is an LTZ, so it's not top trim, it's one step below that, hence the reason you're getting a lot of the chrome finish, the chrome bumper. Now, Dad likes the blacked out look, so he actually had Chevy black out the badges, the bow ties, and then you can see over here the 3500 badge as well. Now, down there, we're getting a set of 18-inch wheels, which look fairly nice, and I think the most important spec on this truck, though, is the 8-foot bed. This is a 172-inch wheelbase. It's a monstrous wheelbase. Why do you want that? Well, in this case, it's for towing a big fifth-wheel travel trailer. The 8-foot bed helps with clearance, and the wheelbase helps with towing. Now you're wondering what the numbers are. Well, we'll go over and look at my favorite sticker in the industry. Right down here on the B pillar of this Chevy, it tells us exactly what this thing can haul and tow. Let me read it for you. Payload, 3,873 pounds. Max conventional tow rating, 20,000 pounds. And max on the gooseneck and fifth wheel, 21,150 pounds. So some pretty serious numbers, but honestly, that payload number is the one you really have to pay attention to. 3,800 pounds of payload is a ton and more than enough to pull that big travel trailer. All right, folks, and now our journey begins at the gas station. So we are going to do roughly 100 kilometers today. And the way that starts is we're gonna fill up, because then at the end of this, we're able to actually do the math ourselves and see how much fuel we burn. So we'll be able to compare those numbers with the trip computer numbers and yes, see how much fuel this 3500 burns. And it's actually especially important with heavy duty trucks to do these sorts of drives because the EPA doesn't have to rate heavy duty vehicles, so they don't have to offer you a number on big trucks like this. So getting these real world fuel economy numbers I think are important, and that's what we're going to do right now. Alrighty folks, we are all filled up. Our overall range is showing 859 kilometers. And right now we're gonna go ahead and reset the trip 2. There we go. And now we're gonna take off. And again, it is my intention to do roughly 100 kilometers. It's about 62 miles, so that we can get a good sense for the fuel economy on this truck. Now, I already mentioned the main reason that this truck was purchased was to tow a trailer, but the truth is, like the majority of trucks, it's still gonna run around empty for the majority of its life. So getting an empty fuel economy number is rather important, so we know how much this thing burns. And then if you follow the channel, you also know that my dad is replacing a Ram 2500 with the Cummins. He's replacing that truck with this Chevy, so I'll also be able to compare the fuel economy numbers from the Ram to the Chev to see if they got better or worse. So we're taking off right now. It is my plan to do a little bit of mixed driving. We're pulling out onto a secondary highway. Speed limit here is 80 kilometers an hour. It's about 50 miles per hour. And I'm gonna stick my cruise control on at 85K. and we're just going to cruise along this highway for quite a while. And then on the way back, I'm going to hit some even slower roads, go through some towns, so it'll be a bit more of a city drive. So yeah, we should get a good mix of driving in, and I'll let you know my thoughts on the truck as we move along. Now, as we drive here, folks, let me just offer some impressions on this truck. This is actually my first time driving Dad's new 3500 as well, so it's my first time kind of feeling it out and seeing all the features in here. The first thing I'm going to say, and again, I'll remind you, I'm driving around empty here today. The first thing I want to say is just how quiet and refined this truck is when driving empty. Now, this is a statement that I actually think is true of basically all heavy duties today. They've gotten so much better at just being daily drivable, and this 3500 is no different. The diesel is truly whisper quiet when I'm cruising along here at highway speeds. You can't hear it. You only really hear that diesel chug when you put your foot deep into the pedal. And then the suspension, it's smooth. Now, I will say, compared to the Ram 2500, which uses the coil springs rather than the leafs, it's not quite as smooth. The Ram, on the daily drivability, just in terms of overall comfort, takes it by just a little bit. But also don't forget that's a 2500, this is a 3500. And yeah, a 3500 that can take 3,800 pounds of payload with the leaf springs in the back has no business feeling this good driving around empty. So it's truly remarkable to me just how comfortable these HDs have gotten, especially this 3500 I'm in right here. Next up, I'll touch on the power a little bit. For 2024, not only is there more power here, but Chevy says that there's more usable power lower in the rev range. So essentially, you're actually going to get more torque that's going to come on at a lower RPM. And now again, driving empty, it almost seems silly to comment on it because empty, this truck is ridiculously powerful. It pulls from a stoplight, merging with traffic is no problem at all. So in day-to-day driving, you're never going to complain about it. And then more importantly, when you put a big trailer on it, having the big torque number is important, but having more power in that sort of usable speed range and rev range is crucial, and Chevy has made that better too. So stay tuned because we're gonna release a first tow video where Dad actually puts his fifth wheel behind this thing, and then we can compare that as well and talk more about the towing. But just from a power perspective, it's certainly hard to complain about getting more power and seemingly more usable power. That's it on drivability. Let me quickly just touch on the interior. And I think the most important point here is that this is an LTZ. It's a step down from the top trim luxury trucks. But in terms of features, I don't feel like I'm missing that much. I have the big infotainment screen, fully digital gauge cluster, all of the towing things that I want, like an integrated brake controller, and all of the towing technology up here in the dash. Heated and cooled seats, of course. The list goes on, but truly at this price point, I think the difference from an LTZ to that top trim high country is less about the actual features you're getting and more about the way it looks straight up. High country, you're getting more of the real wood and you're getting some of those darker leather accents. This truck is sort of a bright gray and maybe a little more boring stylistically, but I also think it looks nice. It's a clean design. So yeah, my point here is that these top trim luxury trucks these days, they offer a ton, but it's not always a ton of actual features. A lot of it just has to do with the way it looks and the materials that you're getting in your interior. So if that matters to you, well, then you have a lot of great options. But if you do want to save some money and you don't care about getting sort of the look, but you want the features, yeah, LTZ, and this sort of is true for most brands, one step down from that top luxury trim usually puts you into one of the more value-focused trims. Maybe not value-focused, but this trim, more than a high country, has a lot more value packed into it. That's what I want to say. Alrighty, folks, we are pulling back into the gas station right now. So the first thing I'll be able to do is tell you our fuel economy from the trip computer in front of me. And then after I fill up, we'll be able to do the math ourselves. So here we go. We did 105.8 kilometers, and we managed 13 liters per 100 kilometers even. A nice flat 13. So, yeah, that's not a horrible number, I feel like, for a big heavy truck like this. But let me go fill it up now, and like I said, we'll do the math ourselves and see how they compare. Now we're filled up, folks. Let's do the math ourselves. So we take the 13.348 liters of diesel. We divide that by the distance driven. It's 105.9 kilometers. Multiply by 100 to move that decimal, and we end up with 12.6 liters per 100. So actually doing the math ourselves suggests that the numbers are a little bit better. And now, just for all my American friends out there, I'll convert it using my pal Google. 13 liters per 100 is 18 miles per gallon, and 12.6 would be a little bit less than that. So that gives you a decent sense for what this truck is going to burn. Now, I did say I think that's okay for such a big 3500 diesel, but it is actually a little worse than the Ram it is replacing. My dad's Ram 2500 fit with the Cummins would usually burn around 11 or 12 liters per 100. So this is about a liter per 100 worse than that, which is sort of interesting. Now, the other caveat I do have to mention, this engine just has 700 kilometers on it. So it's not actually fully broken in yet, and that could change the fuel economy over time. But luckily, we're going to have this thing for a long time, so we will be able to report back on how the numbers are in the coming years, and that will be interesting. But yeah, at the end of today, at 13 liters per 100 kilometers, I'm feeling okay about the consumption on this 3500. You know what, folks? That's it for this one. So why don't you go below into the comments. Let me know what you think of the fuel economy on this big Chevy and just the truck in general. What kind of testing do you want to see? Let us know in the comments. While you're down there, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member, and then come right back here to the channel to see what we're testing next. See ya.